Ciao.
Welcome to Faenza.
Hi, nice
Welcome
to meet
to
you.
Rosso. All good?
Yeah,
Perfect.
fine.
Cool. Your badges here, Manuel and Patrik.
Thanks.
So, you ready to kick off today's factory tour?
Yes.
Shall we go? Ready?
Okay.
Let's go. Let me introduce you to Claudio
Nice to meet
Balestri,
you.
Nice to meet you.
Chief Engineer Vehicle Performance,
Nice to meet you.
Manuel and Patrik, our esports official drivers. So I leave you guys with Claudio, so you can keep on talking about setup, car, and what's behind performance. Okay?
Okay.
Enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see each other later today.
Thank you.
Ciao!
Welcome, guys. Welcome. My name is Claudio Balestri. I'm working in Vehicle Performance Group. The target for our group is very simple: optimize chassis performance. This is the operation room. Please come in. Basically, in this room, I spend all my race weekends. We are using this room to optimize the performance of our car based on data analysis. We try to maximize the performance of the car. This means we suggest setup changes between the sessions. We suggest setup changes even during the run, and we try to support the race team in the best possible way. Clearly, the communication is very difficult. That's why we have a lot of intercom channels to communicate quickly to the pit wall, trying to make the car faster or to make the right call in the right moment in the race to maximize our result. On the wall there are many screens, circle. We use this to define if you're in traffic, if you want to call the car in for the pit stop. Clearly, we receive a lot of data, we elaborate the data, and we identify key performance indexes. The most important key parameter is lap time. We follow the other cars, we follow the compounds, sector analysis, the stream of data. We analyze the data we receive on both cars. We need to know where the car is. GPS, very important. In the last screen, we have a garage camera, very important because we need to know when the car is ready to leave the garage.
So, for example, how do you decide how to use the ERS in the car?
I would say before the race weekend, there is a lot of analysis, a lot of simulation offline, made also by our partner Honda. Another comment I would like to add is this is not the only operation room we have. There is another one in Bicester, in England, where there are all the experts of aerodynamics, and there is another one in Japan to follow the airs and to follow the performance of the power unit. Okay, guys, one question, but how do you prepare the race?
First of all, trying to get the aerodynamics right, wings, and then just go into smaller details like after time. You always leave the pits. It's a longer process. You do a change, then you leave the pits, you do laps. You go back into the pits, something was wrong, you change again. And then you start to optimize it, and then you end it with brake bias and differential. That's like the minor details at the end when everything else is completed.
Discussing with Manuel and Patrik, I've seen that we have very similar problems approaching the setup optimization. I found really interesting to discuss with them because for some aspects we are very close to the esport. Patrik, Manuel, let's go to see your setups. Now where we are.
Red Bull Ring loading into
Good.
on the racetrack now, loading screen. So now we're into a like directly into a race.
Yeah.
We are on the grid. Now we have the possibility here to go onto the setup display.
Okay, understood.
And here we have all the options that we have, starting with aerodynamics.
Yeah.
That's the wing settings that go from 1 to 11. That's front wing and rear wing. We're in Spielberg, Austria,
Yeah.
which has quite a lot of long straights, so we kind of keep it low. Then we have here differentials, off throttle and on throttle. That's like minor details that we can also change on track.
Before the race, we can do setup changes like brake pressure.
Brake, yeah.
Since the fuel load is higher, we have to increase the brake pressure so that the car stops before instead of qualifying. We can also change the tire pressures between race and qualifying.
And one question, the outlap has an impact on tire performance. In the qualifying, I suspect you start from the
Yeah,
garage.
we do a
and
slow
then
outlap to preserve the tire.
Yeah?
Yes.
And what happens if you follow closely the car in front?
We lose grip, we lose downforce.
So this means if you want to preserve the tires, if you want to go long in the stint, you need to pay attention also in the game.
Yes,
Stay
because
close to the car in front.
since you have less downforce, you should do more tires.
Okay, interesting. Going back to the rear wing, in the race, all the competitors, all the drivers tend to converge in the same direction of downforce? Or maybe during the race there are differences?
That's like real F1. We're obviously practicing for multiple weeks,
Yeah.
and every team is kind of isolated from each other. We don't know what everyone else does.
Yeah.
So it can possibly be a scenario where we use higher wings than our
Yes, yes, yes.
competitors, and then we're lacking straight line speed, but we're fast in corners. So we have to anticipate our races a little bit. If we're expecting to be in the mid-pack, we obviously need a little bit
Yeah.
lower wing to overtake.
This aspect is very close to what we are doing. Monitoring the
Exactly,
competitors, if we need to
Exactly.
improve our overtakeability.
Exactly. So we usually have like two setups ready, lower or higher wing. And then before the race start, we also have, in the arena, we have practice and qualifying. So
Yeah.
that's the first time when we see what everyone else does. We don't see their setups, but based on the straight line speed, the speed traps, we see what kind of wings they use.
To improve car performance, we need to identify clearly the weaknesses of our car. To do so, we need to look at the other competitors. On this topic, they are doing a very similar job. They look at the top speed of the other cars and they're trying to evaluate what is the level of downforce the other cars are running. On this aspect, we are very close.
Then there's differential off and on throttle. You're kind of managing the slip of the tires a little bit there. And then we have cambers and toes. Right here, front and rear camber, front and rear toe.
Is the handling of the car very sensitive to the camber?
It is sensitive, especially in the race. You want to make sure that the cambers are in the right spot to manage the tire temperatures, and
Yeah.
for tire wear, that's also very important. We have a specific range here. We just cannot. We're just a little bit limited with what the game operates with. So we have a range where we can set up the camber, which is 2.5 to 3.5, for example, here. That's cambers and toes. Then the next page gets a little bit more complicated to find the right balance of everything. We have the ARBs, we have the springs, and the ride height. That alone takes a lot of hours to figure out, because there's so many more approaches that result in a car that's balanced in a different way. So there's all kind of ways that you can go. You can go a little bit stiffer. You benefit in fast speed. You lose a little bit low speed grip, and then you can go the other way around. Ride heights have to be in the right area as well. That's all kind of things that we invest a lot of time in practice.
So, to be honest, I was very surprised by the process they are following to optimize car setup. The process is exactly what we are doing. Before we decide the downforce level, then we decide how to balance probably the most important parameter in Formula One, aerodynamics, their balance, and then they optimize tires and setup. So in this respect, I was very well surprised. They are really following the good path to optimize the car. Clearly, in Formula One, there are a lot of experts. We can go deep into the details In this respect, probably we can help them. Probably they should be a bit more data-driven. They should spend a lot of time analyze what they tested before to do the following setup change. They have the possibility to test all the possible setup changes. They do, I think, very wide setup scan, but probably they need to focus the attention on the analysis of the data they produce. Doing so, you can probably get the maximum out of all the setup changes.
When I'm explaining someone what I'm doing for a living, I'm doing esports for a living.
The main thing we do is just playing games, but in a competitive way. F1 Esports is structured in 4 main events, and each event has 3 races. Before getting to these events, you had to qualify in July within 108,000 drivers. Only 40 of them could be picked, and only 10 of them were picked by F1 team.
So before the whole F1 Esports, Toro Rosso, Red Bull thing, I worked as an industrial mechanic. After I got the opportunity and I got picked at the Pro Draft in 2018, the decision to quit my job was quite big, but on the other hand, I feel like I'm young, I have plenty of time to come back to my old daily job if I want to. So I grabbed that opportunity, I try to push for it, and I'm not looking back to my old job now, see what the future brings.
My career started almost 5 years ago when I started approaching with sim racing games. After getting picked by Toro Rosso, my life had to be changed because we had 2 training sessions for each day. So I had to change when to go to the gym, or when I had to study, or when I had to take lessons.
The age is definitely important. I mean, I remember like when I started 10 years ago, I was one of the youngest myself. Now I can find myself in a situation where I'm older than everyone else in a competition. I still think I'm at the peak age. I still have a lot of good years in front of me, so not sure if a 16-year-old is better than a 25-year-old who brings more experience. So there's a wide range of age that can be competitive. The performance level, of course, it got more difficult, but I think like 50-70% of the grid is still the same people from 2017 when F1 Esports launched. So the majority of people are the same. If you were good 2 years ago, you're still good. But of course, there's always like every year, there's like 1-2 new super young people that are super fast, and you know, there's more and more coming into the series, and it's definitely not going to get easier in the future, that's for sure.
Well, the main point to be as fast as you are at home is just to try to focus and try to remove everything else that you see but the monitor. So you just have to see the monitor and your steering wheel and just focus on what to do instead of being focused on the cameras, so that you don't have any distractions. Otherwise, you just start to get slower and slower. The main point that surprised me in this factory tour is that when we spoke to the vehicle performance engineer, he told us that the setup regulations are almost identical to what we do in the game, so that we can have a little bit of relationship between what we do in the game and what the real car does.
The way he set up the car, the way he explained it to us, is pretty much very similar to what we do as well. He basically said, since we have so many laps in the game, you know, there's no limit to how many laps we can turn. We often have the tendency to maybe rush things. We change too many setup things at the same time, trying to improve the setup at the rapid speed, and then it kind of gets a little bit of a mess. So he advised us to go step by step, every single setup detail that we have, isolate it from each other so we can make our notes, see how it works with the car, and then move on to the next and go more systematically to the whole approach to the setup instead of just mixing it with too many settings at the same time. So that was a pretty good reminder because I know he's right, so I will keep that in mind. And the whole experience was just great, and obviously it's very exciting for someone like me who is a fan of Formula One since all my life, basically. You know, you get to see the cars on track turn their laps, but now we get the opportunity to watch behind the scenes, see from scratch how the F1 cars are built, you know, step by step, go through the whole process from the small parts to the big parts. I'm really thankful to have had that opportunity today.